All right, we are live. Good evening, Corona Days Professional Development Group. It's me, Danette Edwards. And this evening, I'm honored to be here with Mr. Victor Simmons. He's going to lead the discussion this evening, How I Got a Job During a Pandemic. Victor is going to explore mindset, how you can gather your resources. He's going to talk about taking massive action and follow up and follow through. A little about Victor. So Victor has led HR teams for global hotel companies where he has implemented and maintained a successful leadership strategy that has improved employee satisfaction and improved retention each year. Victor is deeply engaged in all facets of the employee experience while being an operations-minded business partner to his leadership team. Victor's current role is the VP HR and head of diversity, equity, and inclusion for Atelier Ace, a leading player in lifestyle hospitality brands. He was recently brought on to execute HR and DEI strategy, structure, goals, and governance for 1,000 plus employees spread across 10 hotels in major US cities and Japan, while expanding into new destinations to be announced soon. Thank you for being here with Corona Days Professional Development Group, Victor. I am going to take myself off of the screen and turn it over to you. But I'm here if you need me. You're not going to hear me, but I'll come in if you need me. All right.
All right. Well,
All
thank
right,
you.
then. Thank
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. And Danette, first of all, I just have to give it back to you. I have been a coach of many people over the years, and I just love giving back. And I know that's why we resonated with each other and why we are here today. So I just want to give it back to you. Thank you for having me here and allow me to speak with your followers. So I wanted to, when Danette and I spoke, we talked about, telling my story and what might be applicable to those of you out there that are looking for work. And I think about a couple of things that have occurred to me in my life that I thought might be helpful. First, you heard my bio. I will tell you that I am a longtime hospitality person. Excuse my voice. Just went out this morning about late this morning, and I've been gargling and been drinking hot tea with honey and lemon. So apologies for that, but I did not want to miss this. Nonetheless, I'm a hospitality person through and through. I grew up in this business. I went to school for this, and so hospitality is what I know. And I will tell you that it was about 10 years ago, actually, that I decided to leave the world of hotels and go out on my own and run my own HR consulting business. And I realized very quickly that I missed having my own team, and I wanted to be back in a hotel. And I started looking, and it took me a good year before I found the right opportunity for me. And I'll tell you, I almost had about 278. I had 278. I was about to have tattooed on my chest because that's how many applications I went through before I found that opportunity. And through that experience, whenever someone reaches out to me asking for how do you get back, how do you transition from one job to the next, I'm always happy to help. So it's a pleasure to be here today. For me, last year in the the pandemic had just gotten underway, late April, I got that phone call, and we were already working from home. We went working from home March 13th, and oh gosh, it was probably 10 days later, I got a phone call, and my job was eliminated. And so I had just purchased a house about 6 months prior to that. And a number of things went through my mind at that moment. My wife was essential worker. She's was at work. And I'm thinking, what am I going to tell her? How are we going to keep this house? What are we going to do? I've gone through this before. I'm 10 years older, and we're in a pandemic. So I will tell you, mindset is first and foremost. And I went through my feelings And I sat in that. I sat in that space for quite a while, quite frankly, that day. And then I decided, okay, let me get out a pen and paper and let me put a game plan together, and let me figure out what I'm going to do. And the first thing I did was, let me just go ahead. This was midweek, and let me just go ahead and go through my feelings through this week and over the weekend. And on Monday, I'm going to implement this plan. So that's what I did. The first thing was, I knew that if I had gone in with some of the feelings I had, which was being pissed off, being upset, being frustrated, if I went through and started working with that mindset, I would not be as successful with getting the right job for me at the right time. And so I wanted to make sure that I went through all of that first, and then had my mindset. And my mind was that because we're where we are today, it's going to be even tougher than it was 10 years prior. But I didn't let some of these other things that sometimes creep in about age and what have you. And I just put all that aside and said, here are the things that I need to do to get done, which I'll explain to you over the course of the next 40 minutes or so, of the things that I had written down and went after. And so with that, I will tell you, after I had my mind right and I set my goals of what I wanted to do, I knew I was in the right frame of mind. And so one of the things that was key for me was utilizing my resources. I have always done that in my career. I had always made sure that I had a number of folks on my team, in my extended team, to be able to help me get my job done. And so the first thing that I've always done was network, network, network. And guess what? After I finished networking, I networked some more. And I've always done that. And that was one of the resources that I leaned into to be able to help me with this, with what I had in front of me. And what I did was, I was on the payroll for a couple of weeks. And so anytime I was closing up some of my projects and reaching out to folks that I was working with inside the building and outside of the building, because I was in DEI, I was involved in partnerships that were going on with this previous company. I was involved in a number of associations, doing a lot of things externally and internally. And I made sure that those individuals knew what was going on with me, because those are potential opportunities later down the road. The other thing that I did was, I was already working from home, but I was using a company laptop. So I made sure that I had an old personal laptop, but I ended up upgrading and getting a new laptop. I made sure I was using the living room for my meetings that I was doing with this previous company. I had a spare bedroom, and I converted that into an office. We had pretty good Wi-Fi, but I noticed on an external event that I was doing, that I was cutting in and out. So as soon as I knew that, I did not want to be on an interview where that was occurring. So I made sure that I went out and got these OB routers, and made sure that that was an upgrade so that I didn't have any issues with that. The other thing that I did was, part of my package afforded me a transition package that had a career coach. And that was part of my package. So I utilized that. But in addition to that, I went out and utilized someone I had worked with in the past that is a career coach. And I want you to think about that for a second. I know you're working with Danette, which is awesome. I just want to impress upon you, I've been in human resources for, at this point, probably 18 or so years. I've coached people in this field specifically, but making a living or a side business from that, as well as doing it internally for my previous companies. But I went ahead and got a coach. When you think, I used to be into sports, and some of the greatest, or all of the greatest players for that matter, they have a coach. And so even though I'm familiar with what needed to be done. I knew what needed to be done. I still had two coaches actually that I utilized. So I want to leverage any kind of resource that I have to be able to help me get into this opportunity. The same thing with resumes. I had a resume that I has made me afforded me the opportunity to make it to a number of great um, jobs that I've had in the past, but I still went out and had a professional writer do my resume. Did cost some money, but it was I think it was a good investment to have another set of eyes and have someone look at that for me. And again, I think that's something that is very helpful. And then I wanted to make sure that I had a group that I could lean on when I knew what was going to happen. That I would go out there, I would apply, and of course, you know, they would hire me, right? And then I would get that thanks but no thanks letter, and you feel a certain kind of way about that, right? And I did not want to go through that. So I had a resource group. There were 3 individuals that were in my field that were also out there looking, and we had a biweekly call that we had where we would check in with each other. And because we were in the same field, it was helpful. There might be a position that I saw that I didn't think was right for me, and I would tell my counterparts about those opportunities, and they did the same thing for me. So it was an opportunity to be able to trade different opportunities. Also, get intel on a particular company that maybe they had interviewed. I got the same call, and we were able to sort of trade insider notes on that opportunity. So that's a little bit about utilizing your resources. And then hey, Danette, is how I'm looking at my notes here. If there are questions that come in, will they just come into a chat that I should look for, or will you?
Well, if we get questions, I will I'll come in with them. I'll put them up on the screen, but you may not see them. So now I'm just putting up some comments. We're having some good comments come through, and I really want you to see them. But we haven't had a question yet. So guys, please, if you have questions, Victor is taking questions during his presentation. So come on with the questions. I love all of the support and the comments. We have people on all 3. We have YouTube viewers, LinkedIn. We have about 9 people on LinkedIn, and we have Facebook viewers. So we have a good group right now. So I'm going to move myself back to the audience and let Victor continue.
All right. Well, hey, listen, you know how to make somebody feel good. Keep up with those feel good comments. I always love those. I just want to make sure that I don't miss any questions. I got pulled up on my screen here a couple of my notes that I wanted to make sure I share with you all, so I won't see the actual screen. So Danette, you just chime in if there's a question. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep it moving. So the next part of for me and my journey that I learned early on was take massive action. You gotta get up and move. You gotta make some moves. Otherwise, you just don't. It just doesn't happen for you. So I have talked to many people who are concerned about this job. I don't know if I'm qualified enough. Well, I saw on the job description it said this, and there are, as you've seen job descriptions, right? And there will be 25 things that are on there. And I've seen people slow down and hesitate because there's 2 things on there that they think, well, I don't know that, or I don't have that experience, and so I'm not going to apply. So don't get it twisted. I'm not saying just willy-nilly apply for everything, but I am saying when you look at a job description, if you have the majority of what it takes, now if you have those skill sets that are listed on there and you have the majority of them, you need to go for it. You need to apply. If you don't apply, you're sitting on the bench, right? And you want to be on the game, particularly when, I'm a DEI person, right? And so my job was eliminated, or my last day was April 1st. And now it is June, and we all know what was going on in June, right? Everybody was out in the streets, and a DEI person like me wanted to be right there on the front lines, taking care of business for our underrepresented folks. And so I was ready to take action. And so anytime I saw something, Excel is not my strongest point, but if it had Excel on there, that was not going to keep me from trying to get that job. So take massive action.
Victor, I'm loving it. And I see someone just put up take massive action. I'm gonna put that on the screen. But we have a question about your routine. So I'll read it here. And so Victor, do you have a set routine? This is from Rhonda. She's in our Facebook group. This seems to be a common factor amongst people who are successful. They are very intentional on how they spend their time. So, first of all, I just want to commend you. And we had some comments about it in the group. You took 48 hours and you just snapped back, right? So you took your weekend after, after getting laid off, and you snapped back. Many people are just now snapping back, and there's still some who haven't. So that I want to commend you for that. But what kind of routine? Did you have a set routine every day?
I did. In fact, here's the first bullet point. I may not have had a job, but I was in the office every day, even on Saturdays. So I came down to this room where I'm at right now. Where I went out, bought a desk, and put in here, and I was at this desk every day. I would get up, go to the gym. As soon as I got back from the gym, grab breakfast, and then I was here at my desk, and I was on the desk, and this is what I did. So I was looking at industry-specific job listings. I was culling through those. I was looking at doing company research. I knew that in my field, in HR and DEI, didn't have to do it just in hospitality. So I did look at other industries, but I was looking for my industry, hospitality, but then also sort of parallel, what you might call parallel industries, something that would resonate for me. I can certainly do HR anywhere, but it still needed to be a company that resonated with me. It needed to be an industry that resonated with me. I'm a big proponent of education, but I didn't see me being in education for this particular role. So I didn't necessarily do that, but fitness, wellness, those type of things, I was looking at those type of industries. So I was doing a lot of research in the morning. So Mondays was usually for me was research and looking up different job boards that I was familiar with in hospitality and in the other industries that I was interested in. And then I would then go into each of those particular, if there was a job, I didn't just apply for it. What I would then do is just do research on that particular company. I would go in and look at what are the board of, again, I'm a DEI guy.
Yeah.
What do the board of directors look like? What does the senior leadership look like? And what does their career site look like? What's on there? That doesn't necessarily mean they can put any kind of pictures up there. That doesn't necessarily mean, okay, because you see people of color, that automatically works for me as a person of color. But there at least is some effort put into that. That was a telltale sign for me. So I was looking at those indicators on whether this company was the right company for me. Then I would go in and I was very selective about those. Then I would go in and apply. So Monday was research. Then Tuesday was where I would go in and start applying for some of those jobs that I had done research on. I would apply for those positions. And go ahead.
And because you're talking about applying, I'm going to ask you this question from Russell Edmond. I think he's someone from your network. He says you were the ultimate networker. He says, aside from applying, what other steps should a potential candidate take to at least get an interview?
Yeah, great question. Russ, that's my thing, Russ. Here's the thing. So again, when I was doing that research on the company, I was also looking at you, and you do this on LinkedIn, right? You can see people that you went to school with that are working in that particular company. You see people that maybe you've worked with before. And so I would go through and I would look at those individuals and see if it was anybody that I knew. And if it was someone that I knew, either from school or from a previous job, then I would reach out to them and say, hey, can I get, and this is critical, Not just, hey, I applied for a job, can you help me out, right? That's not what, we're all trying to get things. People that are working, they're all doing more with less. So I would reach out and say, hey, listen, I want to see if I can spend 20, 25 minutes with you just to get a better understanding of your particular organization. And then in that 20, 25 minutes conversation, there were specific questions that I would ask. How am I going to be successful? What does it look like? How do they make you successful in your role? What are some things that I should know about? Should I apply for this opportunity? What are the things that you like about this company? And so I would gather that information. Who should I talk to for, if I'm interested and I apply, who's the best person that I should talk to for this opportunity? And that's how you get it. Because if you just go on and apply online, it just goes into, you already know this, you're already seeing this, right? It just goes out into the ethosphere, never to be heard of again. So you do want to make sure that you try to make connections with someone that's either in that company, or you look to see who is connected to someone that is in that company. So there's someone that I'm connected to that's connected to someone at that organization. Then I reach out to that person and do the same thing. Hey, can I spend 20, 25 minutes? I understand that so-and-so with XYZ organization, and I'd like to see if maybe I could do some networking. You could introduce me. So I try to find ways to be able to make sure that I connect with someone in that organization. And so that's what I was doing. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I was either on an interview for a company or I was interviewing somebody about that particular company. That was another thing that I was doing. The other thing in terms of massive action is training. So in the field of HR, you need to be able to, I hold a couple of certifications, and you need to be able to maintain those. So I was taking training classes just to continue to keep me up to date on what's going on. There was a lot of things, as we all know, that was happening with COVID that impacted the world of HR. Working from home, significant impact. So I wanted to make sure that I was up to speed on current events. So I was doing training for being up to speed on current events, but I was also doing training to be able to make sure that my recertification, this was in 2020, my recertification came up in March of 2021. So I wasn't waiting around until January of 2021 to work on it. In July, August, I was doing recertification classes. I actually had a DEI certification that I hadn't had. I decided to get certified on that. I'm relatively new in the DEI space at this point when that occurred. Although I've been a champion of DEI for many, many years, I had just held this role as a DEI leader for a global company. That was August of 2018. So, less than 2 years later, here I am out looking. So I went and got a certification. So, and that's not something you just, read a book and then take the exam the next day, right? That was a, 4-month process of training, commiserating with other colleagues. There was a project that I had to do in order to get that certification. So again, massive, massive action. And then association events, even though everything was virtual, which is easier now at that time to be able to, instead of having to go somewhere, go into Connecticut, I'm in New Jersey, I was able to attend events across the country virtually. So I attended those events because when you're at an event, it's the same thing. When you go into a room, it's actually easier. You might find this surprising, but I am a pretty shy guy, so you might find that surprising. But this made it easier because now all I had to do was from behind the keyboard, I'm able to reach out to someone that's also at this event and leave my LinkedIn link in the chat box. So I was able to make connections that way. That was another way to be able to reach out to individuals about a company that either I had applied for, was interested in, or I was looking up that individual and I see, I'm interested. That's a new industry I didn't even think about, or that's a new field I hadn't thought about. Maybe that's somebody. So I would set up a 20-minute, virtual cup of coffee with that individual to find out about that field, that industry. Do they know any particular openings? So association events. And then certainly in my field, there were HR events, there were DEI events that I was attending virtually to be able to, again, continue to make connections. And that's massive action. That's what it looked like for me. And then follow up and follow through. To me, this is a saying that I learned early on. Do what you are supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, even when you don't want to. And so that's follow up and follow through. Certainly there were days when, man, I haven't hit a bingo yet. Should I, is it worth it? Sure, I went through those things, but you know what? It's just like working out. It's not. There are mornings when that alarm goes off that I want to, but I get up and I go make it to the gym. Just like this, I came down right here to this spot and went through my routine. And the next part of that was those interviews, whether they were for an actual job or it was just someone that I was interested in. I made sure that I either did a follow-up email to that individual, or I was doing a handwritten note, particularly if it was an interview. If it was an interview that I had, then I was doing a handwritten note. Not, very few people, interns, people that are applying for interns do that. College students are doing that. Few others are doing, people are, but not a lot. So I wanted to make sure I was set apart from everybody else that applied. And so whenever I had an actual job interview, made it all the way through, then I wrote a handwritten note saying thank you for the opportunity. I made sure I put something in there that talked about the actual interview and also something that we laughed about or something that was interesting about that phone conversation. Then I made sure I put that note in there, making sure it was personal. So I made sure I did those. That's not something that is easy to do. It takes extra time and effort, and that's about doing things when you're supposed to, even when you don't want to. Let's see. I also wanted to make sure I was doing a value add. So for those individuals that I did those 20, 25-minute conversations, if there was in that conversation, there was something that we talked about, that they were trying to figure something out, then I made sure that was part of my work. That was part of my daily routine, was finding out how can I add value to that particular individual who gave me that 20, 25 minutes. It's pretty valuable. So I made sure that I did something in return. So it might have been just as simple as an article on the conversation we were sort of scratching our head over on. Then it was an article I thought would be helpful to that situation. And then I would send that off saying, hey, remember when we were talking about such and such? Here, I thought this might be something that would be helpful to you. So you want to make sure that those individuals that are helping you along the way, that you're adding value in some way. Could be that they're looking for work themselves, or they're thinking about changing industry. So if I saw a listing that I thought was helpful to them, then I would send that on. Be the expert. Here's another thing that I think significantly helped me last year is I wrote a couple of articles. In fact, since I took on this new role, it's actually a first-time HR role, first-time DEI role. So I've been pretty slammed. I've been hitting the ground running. That's a whole nother conversation we need to have about the company I joined and what's been going on with them when I joined them. As such, I've been pretty busy. But during that time when I was down here every day, well, the other things I was doing was I was writing articles on what was going on in my industry. I was doing articles on that. I actually did an interview similar to this during that time. And it was off of an article I had written. And so you want to be the expert in your field. And the way that you get noticed by that is doing things like this. You end up partnering up with someone, write articles, be active on LinkedIn, do YouTube videos. My buddy Russell has a radio show, so I was on his radio show. I don't think it was before, when I was with a previous company, and then when I got on with here. But that would be an opportunity if you have something that he's interested in hospitality, for example, to talk about. I'm sure he would love to have you on his show. So do things like that where you get a wider reach. There are people on here that I haven't met, right? And so this would be an opportunity for you to be able to meet other folks that you haven't met, and that's what leads you to other opportunities. It is network, 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 and guess what? When you're done networking, what do? Network some more. A couple other things that I've always told folks is be authentic in your interview. For me, I know I've been doing it long enough. I know when someone's giving me a lot of bull, and so just don't do that, because recruiters, they've been doing this long enough and they can tell when you're giving them a bunch of bull. So you come off so much more credible. You come off so much more confident when you talk about what you do know. And so make sure you bone up. That's the other thing. Before you have your interview, I did research for what I was going to apply for, but then I also made sure that I did research. Who's the person I'm interviewing? What do I know about that particular individual? So I tried to get information about them. Who am I reporting to? If I were to get this job, I would get information on that person, and I would bone up on that. I would bone up on what are things going on in that organization, and then that's what I would speak to based on the interview questions that I got. Instead of making stuff up, I would speak to the things that I know, and I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is I saw an article where your company's doing XYZ. Is that correct? Yes. Well, and then in this case, in the past, what I have done that has been successful for me. So when they ask you these behavioral based interview questions, which is tell me about a time when you did such and such, instead of saying, well, what I would do if I was in this situation, they don't want to know that. They're asking you a behavioral based question, which means something that you have done in the past, because that's a very good indicator of what you'll do in the future. So think about things that you have done that are applicable and tell them that you are the expert on what you did previously. And when you do that, you're going to come off very, very confident in what it is, because you know exactly what it was that you did. So you would say, based on this is what I have done, and this is what my success was. These were the things that I did. I did A, then I went to B, and I did C, and then this is what the result was. I ended up, my workers' comp went down. My associate relations went up 25% when I implemented these things, and that's a game changer. When you do those things, you become that much more authentic in those interviews. The last thing for me is play to the whistle. Again, a sports guy, and so in football, when you're there, I was on the front line blocking people, and you just keep going until the ref blows the whistle. You don't stop, and that's what I did. What was successful for me was at the time that Atelier Ace was talking to me about joining their company, I was also locked in with 3 other companies in the final stages. And I didn't let off the gas on one, because the one that I liked was giving me a little bit more love. I kept playing to the whistle for all 3 of those other organizations I was talking to, because you don't know what's going to happen. There might be an internal at the last minute that comes up. There might be other things that are going on. They may end up pulling the job entirely. So you keep playing all the way to the whistle for all of those jobs. You don't pull off the gas on any of them until you get the offer letter. The other thing that helps you do when you do that is you're able to leverage those situations. You're able to say, well, when are you going to be able to get back to me? Because I am anticipating, I haven't gotten it yet. You be authentic about this. You don't sit up there and lie because you don't want to get caught on the carpet. But you'd say, I'm anticipating an offer letter. I've been talking to XYZ, and I'm anticipating getting an offer letter. When are you going to get back to me? That puts pressure back on them to get back to you faster. And that's what you want. You want people moving faster so that they want to be able to give you the offer so that you can come to them if you're already at that stage. But you're able to then leverage that opportunity, not negatively, but in your favor, on what's the best opportunity for you. So if you had 2 offer letters to look at, you want that. Don't let off the gas. Get 3 offer letters so you can weigh which one is the best one for you. And I I didn't get to, I will say, I didn't get to the point where I had a second offer letter to look at. I was very close. And then this one came through, and this was the one that I wanted. And so, I was very fortunate in that regard. And so I think that is pretty much my journey into how I got to where I am today.
I love it. I love it, Victor. Okay, I'm going to put this question up. And then, guys, if you have any questions, just time for you to drop them now. So, okay, it's Danielle. Danielle, what advice would you have for someone who worked in it's JEDI, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion in the public sector of Chicago for nearly 30 years, who would now like to service in the corporate space? So transitioning to corporate from government sector.
Great. Okay, so it's all about the networking, Danielle. So what you want to do is find out, do the same thing. Look at those corporate organizations in Chicago. If that's where you want to stay. I would say if you are relocatable, then I would widen that lens of what you're looking at, because that's going to give you more and more opportunity. I did, as I said, I had just bought a house. But I told my wife, hey, we might have to pick up and move. We might have to go somewhere else. So I was looking at opportunities all across the country. So I would line up the corporate organizations that you're interested in, do the research on them, find out which ones resonate with you the most. And then I would see if you could figure out who's working there that maybe you're connected to in some fashion, and then reach out to them on LinkedIn to try to get a conversation with them. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. For every 10 that you reach out to, you might get maybe 2 that will respond to you. So you have to, it's like sales, where you have to have a lot in the funnel. So I would reach out to those individuals. I would also find out about any type of association events that are going on that maybe those corporations are involved in, and try to make your way to any of those events, live or virtual, so that you can then be able to figure out who's there and be able to make connections that way.
Thank you, Victor. So let me see. I have another question from Cindy. Cindy Hinton. Any suggestions? Okay, looking to meet more HR professionals for employee benefit packages and referrals in my wheelhouse. Any suggestions?
Yeah, I would. Here in New Jersey, I was connected, still am connected to. And that's another idea. I was am connected to the Morris County SHRM organization. So get, the SHRM is the national, but look for the local in your area and get plugged into that one. And the other thing that I didn't mention that I did that is helpful, again, it gets you out there further, is take on a leadership role. So there was a woman that I networked with for a number of years that was trying to get into my organization with a previous company. She was involved in the local SHRM. She had a leadership role. In fact, now I'm on that committee that she was once on. And so, get active in your local association and take a leadership role.
I love it. All right, guys. You don't have any more questions in the chat. So I am going to first, Victor, I love this. Okay. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that you said for anyone who jumped on late. But guys, replay this. If you can't catch it on LinkedIn, I'm going to drop the link to YouTube in the chat for LinkedIn, and you know how to replay it if you're in our group. So you said couple things, that you utilize your resources. So you network, you let everybody know. I love those 2 because many people throughout the course of their history, they just never networked. Yeah. They thought that I'm supposed to keep work here and we just do the work and anything else we don't do. right? So in terms of, it was just pleasant conversation related to work, and they never took it outside of the workplace, even to LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
you can't connect with these people if you never kept in contact with them. So I love that you had resources with, you had a network,
Yeah,
right?
and I'll tell you again, I've told some people very close to me. You were surprised that that I am this way, but I don't like to go out and necessarily do that.
Mm,
I would rather just be home watching, TV. You have to get out there, and
yeah,
so and I think right now is the time, perfect time for those that are introverts. Now is the time because you can do this online virtually without having to get out and go and have that awkward
mhm,
cocktail and the awkward conversations. It's easier now on chat. So,
yes,
and it's a good way to get you ready because we are eventually going to be back to live,
mhm,
and you got to push yourself. And I will say one last thing about this is it's like public speaking, which I do a lot of. Um, but I used to be nervous at doing those as well, and sometimes I still am when I do those. But the only way to get over nervousness at networking, nervousness at public speaking is to do it. You
do
got to
it.
get out there and do it more and more. And the more you do it, the more at ease you become.
I love it, Victor. And then this one here, you said, and this is another one that many people don't do. You let everyone know, you
Yeah,
know? So
yeah,
some people, it's just so much shame, even though you're let go through no fault of your own, that they don't tell anyone. And there are so many people in your network who could help, and then there are people who want to help.
yeah,
Uh, so
yeah.
yes, you let everyone know.
Yeah, and I went through that. I was like, oh man, what I was in my feelings. I was in my feelings.
Mhm,
What? Me? You don't want me to work for you? Are you,
mhm,
so I did go through that. And there is, embarrassment around that, but if you want to get a job, you have to get over that. Because someone has the key to an opportunity. And the jobs, I will tell you, they are not had by you applying online. Now, my daughter she's working for Disney and labor relations. She is a champ at going out there and getting these jobs without that. But that's very rare by just
mhm.
applying and getting the job. She's been wanting to get with them, and she did. Most of the time, though, the jobs are had by you networking. It's that familiarity. The hiring manager would rather take somebody that knows somebody versus hiring somebody that's just right off of the street. So
Yeah.
if it's a familiarity of some sort, typically that's how you get that opportunity.
Yes, we say that to all of our members all the time. Then, I mean, like everything you did, I'm gonna have to make a visual of this and tag you on it and let everybody know you did it. I'm gonna use my Canva skills. So then you said, yeah. So how long had you been how long had you been a hospitality professional when you were laid off in April?
I was going to do the math on this, and I didn't, but I'm going to say it's got to be close to 30 years. It's got
All
to be
right now.
close to 30.
So
And
30 years. And you said, you know what? I need a coach.
yes,
And I need a professional resume writer.
yes,
Okay? You hear
yeah,
this, guys? So if this 30-year hospitality professional, major level, VP level hospitality professional says, "Hey, I need a coach and I need a resume writer professional to help me get back in the seat that I deserve," then we all need one. And I just want everybody to just know that. Well, I'm gonna make a visual. I am definitely making a visual.
yeah. Listen. You look at LeBron James. LeBron James, he's at, some people might argue, but he's one of the ones that I know is one of the elite in the sport of basketball. He has a coach.
Yeah.
He
He has
has
multiple
somebody that
coaches.
coaches him.
Mhm.
So, if you want to be at the top of your game, think about people that are in sports that are at the top of their game. They have a coach. I know that. And so that's how you get better is feedback is a gift. Feedback is for you to be able to get
Mhm.
better. And so, yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it, Victor. Then you also tapped into your resource group. So this is would one of those be like SHRM, some of the people from SHRM?
Yeah, if you're in HR, it's SHRM, it is Pyra, in California. I don't know if they're only in California, if they go outside of California, but it's PIRA. SHRM is national, and then look at your local chapters for HR.
All right. And then of course that take massive action. Okay.
Yeah.
So you armed yourself with everything you needed and you took massive action. I love it. I love it, Victor. And like I said, I'm gonna make a visual, and I'm not a creative person, but I want everybody to get these. So I'm gonna make a visual and share it.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm tag you in it. I'm not gonna steal it from you. I'm gonna let them know this is from Victor Simmons.
Well, you warming my heart. That's awesome. I love it.
So we have a question from Andrea before I get to my questions.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, any thoughts around upskilling yourself while you wait for your job? What are the new skills needed to compete?
Yeah, great question. Well, the first thing is whatever it is in the field that you're in currently, whatever that is, make sure that you have that. So if there's certifications in whatever that field is, I would do that. In that group that I told you, the 2 or 3 folks that I was meeting with bi-weekly, that individual, one of the individuals, he came from a marketing field, but he didn't have, and he wanted to get into the DEI space. He didn't have that, so he did a DEI certification. So if it's a new industry, a new field that you want to get into, then I would do a certification that is there. I would say where we are today is how do you engage others? How do you work with others in a virtual, but it's going to be a hybrid. There's still going to be folks that are not ready to come back or that prefer to stay home moving forward. So how do you engage individuals that are in a virtual space? So that would definitely be a skill that I would make sure that you hone because that's going to be a big deal moving forward. And then certainly anything in your industry or a new field that you want to get into.
Thank you, Victor. All right, so guys, I'm going to go ahead to my questions. If this is your first time joining us, I have 3 questions that I ask every presenter that comes on. And so if you have any other questions, you can drop them in chat. But by the time I get to that 3rd, that's it. My question, that last question is mine, okay? Let me take this down, and I'm going to put a couple of these up while, all right, Victor. So again, thank you, Victor. I really appreciate this. I think you are helping many
Danielle,
people.
We need to connect. I see Danielle saying she loves hospitality. We need to if we're not connected, we need to connect.
All right now. All right. I love it. Okay, build our networks. Okay, so Corona Days Professional Development Group, our mission is to increase marginalized and BIPOC groups' access to employment opportunities and representation in the workplace by providing our members with free training, mentorship, and other resources. So we were created in response to record unemployment and underemployment stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic. So I ask every presenter that comes, no matter who they are, if you have ever experienced marginalization, and if you would be able to share that with us, an experience, and it doesn't have to be the obvious. I mean, you are a Black man. I mean, there are so many ways someone can be marginalized, and it doesn't have to be the obvious. I was typically marginalized in the workplace because of the way I thought. I thought differently.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking, I'm sure it's occurred, but not, the way I operate and move through. I've been all my life. My dad was in the military, so I was, we lived in an Air Force installation in Maryland. That's right, you're in Maryland, right? So yeah. We were at Andrews Air Force Base.
Okay.
We lived in Germany for a couple of years, then came back to Maryland. And then my dad had a great opportunity, which moved us to Palm Springs, California.
That's how you got
I don't even want to tell you what year, give away my age, but let me just tell you that the neighborhood we moved into and that whole area was a retirement community. And we were the one of 2 Black families in this particular neighborhood. In my middle school that I went to, there were 4 Black kids at this particular school. So I have always, and then I went to my buddy Russ. We were in the hospitality program at Cal Poly Pomona, and we were probably two of, 7 or 8 of us at Cal Poly in hospitality. So I've always moved around where there was only a few of us, and I'm sure there's been situations that occurred. I can tell you about the police and me going to spend the night at Russell's house in between classes when I was taking night courses. But the one thing in the job I can remember was I was on vacation and I shaved for fun. I had shaved my head. I used to have hair and I shaved my head and I grew a goatee on vacation.
What year was this?
This was it was early 2000s. And I came to work that way. And my director told me I needed to grow my hair back with the goatee and shaved hair, that I looked militant. Meanwhile, there was a Caucasian individual who was bald and wore a goatee in another department who did not report to my manager, but this person was allowed to wear that. And I did feel a certain kind of way about it, but the way I operate, I just keep it moving. It did. I mean, do I need to lose sleep over, having to grow my hair back? No, I didn't need to. Now, there might be times, and in the space that I'm in now, I was in operations. This is before I got into HR, before I got into that. I would intercede in a situation like that. I have interceded in similar situations where a team member was talking about a tall Black gentleman that she was concerned. She had concerns about this individual, and I had to intercede and do some cultural competencies with this individual. But for me, I've always been able to. I learned it from my father, and we've always been in those spaces and been able to, figure out that you get more with honey than you do with vinegar, and we've been able to make it happen. And nobody has ever stepped on me other than something like this. But I didn't let it allow it to be something that held me back.
Yes. And I love it. I love what you just said about not letting it be something that held you back. And that's why we asked the question, right? So we asked the question to everyone, and you would be surprised. I have white men, good looking, handsome white men come on and say, yeah, I was marginalized. And a gentleman, I always say he was a Marine. He's marginalized because he was a Marine trying to get into corporate America. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
They have PTSD. That's
yeah. I didn't.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We could go on and on about
it. So I asked the question of everyone because marginalization is not what we always think in terms of Black or woman, LGBTQ, that these things that we see visibly. Sometimes they're hidden things or people, right? So that's one reason. The other reason I ask it is because that first one, anyone can be marginalized, right? So, and I always say a small person does it. Somebody small sees something in you that either they don't understand or they're fearful of. Two is, I want that if anyone is watching this now and they're feeling like they are currently being marginalized, or that a situation that marginalized them has halted their growth or their ability to move forward, that they will see, look at Victor, this successful VP in the hospitality industry who says, yeah, I didn't let that hold me back. I moved on, right? And then they can say and draw from that, hey, yeah, someone could have marginalized me, but I'm not going to allow it to marginalize. I'm not going to allow them to make me marginalize myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you a couple of tools. Here's a couple of tools also. Absolutely. You need to keep it put. Do not let that person hold you back from anything.
Yes.
Here's a couple of tools. Make sure utilize your resources. So who is your mentor? Make sure you're bouncing things off of your mentor. Do you have a sponsor? Is there someone in there that advocates for you? And get with that individual and work with them on that particular situation if you think it is impeding you. First, think about it for yourself and educate yourself on that situation. But then if it is something that is holding you back, then you need to utilize your resources. Get with a mentor, get with a sponsor. If it is something that's just outright wrong, then make sure you pull in human resources. Everybody gets afraid of, oh, it's HR. I don't want to no. If you go to your HR person and you say, this is what, just matter of factly, these are the facts, this is what's occurred, and then just stay quiet and look in front of that HR person. If they're anybody worth their salt, they're going to say, no, that's wrong. Let me intervene. And then we go from there.
I love it. And this is interesting. So, my dad would be, he's passed now, but he'd be about 73 now if he were alive. And he worked at Digital Computers, which turned into Compaq, which then turned into Hewlett Packard. And there came a time when he started to go bald. And being a vain Black man, he said, I'm not going to do a George Jefferson, right? I'm going to shave my head. And so he shaved his head and went to work, and he got sat down. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. It was in Alpharetta, Georgia. He got sat down, and they asked him, was there anything wrong? The militant word came up. And my dad's a real pleasant man, just like real pleasant and soft spoken. I think I get my voice from him. And he answers the questions, and then they say, somebody said, you just want to be like Mike. This was in the 90s, by the way. So you just want to be like Mike. And he said, he just let them go through it. And he says, no, I've been going bald. And he laughed it off. But that, we had some discussion behind that at home. But yeah, so that I'm sure there are plenty other Black men as well who've had a similar type of a situation in the workplace. Thank you for sharing that, Victor. I appreciate you for that. This is my favorite question. So if you can go back in time, and it doesn't, Victor looks so good. I love the colors. I mean, you are sharp. Are you one of the guys who you match the hat and everything? Are you one of those?
I do have some hats. I don't know that
I can see that. I can see that. So yeah, nice sharp dresser here. So I'm not flirting, okay? But just a nice sharp dresser. So if you could go back in time and tap a younger Victor on the shoulder and give him any kind of advice about your career journey, anything related to professionalism, what would you say? Or just tell him something that you think if he knew it,
I have something. It's not career, because I got to tell you, I have all through my career, I have been in the right place at the right time. Every time I've been in the right place at the right time, and I've had some challenges, and it just turned out to be the best situation. People will ask me when I move, did you like that job, that you just left, or why didn't you like that job? And every job has helped me get to the next job.
The next one.
I'd say the thing that I wish I had done, which is not career oriented, is I knew early on, it's finances. I knew early on that you need to start saving money early. I knew that. But there were a couple of financial things that I did in terms of real estate, or things that I did in terms of like a insurance annuity that I cashed out early. And if I had knew more about that, I wish someone had coached me more about real estate and coached me more about these annuities. I would have stayed in there, but I was young, had kids young, and we thought we needed that little. Back then, it was probably $300 I cashed out.
But it would have been.
And had I known more about that, I wouldn't have done that.
I love it. I love it. Listen, guys, listen, I asked that question for a reason, and it is my favorite. All right, this is my final question, and that is, Victor, considering everything we've discussed today and everything that you shared, if viewers have one takeaway, what would you want to leave them with?
Play to the whistle. Get up and go to work every day, even on Saturdays. Just for this is what I do on Saturdays. On Saturday, even in my job now, even though it's corporate, I don't have to be there on Saturday. But I'll still do a couple of hours on Saturday.
Mhm.
Don't do all day on Saturday. My wife gets off around 1, so I'm done before she comes home, so I can spend time with my wife. But before that, I get work done on Saturday, at least one project, so that I'm ahead of the game the following week. So get up every day, go to work, and take massive action.
I love it. I love it, Victor. Thank you. You know, all the things you shared today, they're like 5 topics I want to bring you back for, but I'm going to be easy.
Okay.
We might have to have a series just for you. You just dropped so many gems, so many jewels.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate you. So thank you. And you are welcome back. You are a friend of CDPD. I appreciate you, Victor. And I'm going to tell you to have a good night. Guys, thank you so much. You can catch this on the replay. And of course, if you found value in this presentation, share it. That's all you need to do. Just share it. Repost it on your own social media. You don't have to put it in anybody's inbox, but you could do that too. Share it so that other people can find value in what was shared here this evening. All right. Have a good evening to everyone watching and everyone on the replay. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.